Alright guys, welcome back. This is part 3 of my top 100 favorite movies of all time. We're doing this on a different day. I did the first 2 parts on one day. Now I'm going to be doing a few more parts, or I guess one part today, whenever you're watching this, so you can see I'm wearing a different shirt in this one, because this is filmed on a different day. But anyways, so far we've gone through number 100 through 80, and I'm keeping track on my list, so that way I don't mess up. So let's continue on from where we left off at. For my top 100 favorite films of all time for my 100 subscriber special. So, number 79 is without a doubt The Punisher. The 2004 version of The Punisher. Easily one of the most underrated comic book films. Got hated on a lot when it came out. I don't think it did the best when it came out. I think it did pretty decently. It was a pretty decent sized hit. It got blasted by critics though. But I don't understand the hate this film gets. I mean, I also do enjoy the one with Dolph Lundgren. Not a fan of Punisher Warzone, but this is without a doubt my favorite Punisher film. I think Thomas Jane does a great job as Frank Castle. You have John Travolta as Howard Singh, who's your bad guy. You also have Ben Foster, Will Patton, Rebecca Romaine Stamos, Samantha Mathis. Roy Scheider, the late great Roy Scheider, is Frank Castle's dad. Basically, Frank Castle becomes a vigilante after his family gets killed by this hit ordered by Howard Saint, who's John Travolta. And basically, Thomas Jane becomes the Punisher and becomes a vigilante. Always loved the fight with him and the Russian together. Very directed very well by Jonathan Hensleigh. So, love the Punisher. Easily my number 79. Number 78. Mallrats. Really fun film. The second film that Kevin Smith directed. Just a really fun film where a bunch of people at a mall. Very fun film. I think it's one of Kevin Smith's most underrated movies when it comes to his earlier films, because this film is a lot of fun. Fantastic cast as well. You have not only Kevin Smith and Jason Mewes, but you also have Jason Lee, Jeremy London, Shannon Doherty, Claire Forlani, Priscilla Barnes, Michael Rooker, Joey Lauren Adams, Ethan Suplee, Brian O'Halloran, who's has a little part in this from Clerks. He's in here as well. But yeah, I think this one's just a load of fun. Really funny dialogue, really great characters. Real 90s film. I love Mallrats. Number 77. Evolution. I know this film got blasted a lot also by a lot of people. I know it got blasted by critics and audiences alike, I think. Directed by Ivan Reitman. Probably one of the more forgotten films he did, Evolution. Where it's basically kind of like another, kind of like Ghostbusters, but with aliens in a way. Because you have 4 people, kind of like when you had Dan Aykroyd, Bill Murray, Harold Ramis, and you have Bill Murray, Harold Ramis, Dan Aykroyd, and Ernie Hudson as kind of like your 4 Ghostbusters. Here it is with 4 people. You have David Duchovny from The X-Files, Orlando Jones from Mad TV, Seann William Scott from American Pie, Julianne Moore, who's been in a lot of stuff, Ted Levine is your villain, Dan Aykroyd also has a role in this as well. But a really fun film. I think for a PG-13 movie, I think it works really, really well. I think it's a fun flick. But love Evolution. One of the more underrated comedies, I would say. I'm sorry, it's hot. It is hot in this room. I gotta get the air conditioners in at some point, but it's hot in here. I apologize if I'm sweating a little bit, but Yeah, okay. Number 76, Airheads. Easily one of my favorite Adam Sandler films. I did more of a detailed review of this. I did a separate review of this film. If you want to go back on my channel and look for the review, you'll find it. Really fun film with these three guys in it. Also has a really great supporting cast as well. Chris Farley, Ernie Hudson, Michael McKean, John Nelson, Michael Richards, Joe Mantegna, even little appearances by Harold Ramis and things like that, David Arquette. But I also own the film on Blu-ray too. So, Airheads, really fun flick. But I did more of a detailed review of that when I reviewed the film. Number 75 I do have, but it was kind of a pain to get out, but I'll just mention it right now. But number 75 is The Fly, by David Cronenberg, with Jeff Goldblum and Gina Davis. A fantastic horror remake. Is a really great story. Jeff Goldblum is Seth Brundle and Gina Davis, and it's a really tragic love story. You feel sorry for Jeff Goldblum. And the whole transformation at the end is just so cool. Really great special effects with him transforming into the Fly. It's really a cool flick. But that's number 75. Number 74, Hard Boiled. Easily one of my personal favorite action flicks with Chow Yun-fat, directed by John Woo. I think this was in 1992. So this is before John Woo broke into the United States as an action director with movies like Hard Target, Broken Arrow, Face Off, things like that, Mission Impossible 2. But this is a fantastic action film, and pretty much like the last half hour of this movie is like one big action scene in a hospital. Fantastic action film, directed very well by John Woo. Chow Yun-fat does a great job as the lead. Hard Boiled is just easily one of the best action films out there. I love Hard Boiled. Number 73, The Relic. Once again, another Peter Hyams film. Easily one of the more underrated creature feature movies, where it's basically a creature that's on the loose at a museum. Penelope Ann Miller and Tom Sizemore are your two leads. The creature is done by Stan Winston, the late great Stan Winston. We miss you. I think this is just a really cool creature feature from the 90s. I think Peter Hyams did a great job directing this, and really fun creature feature. Love The Relic. Number 72, Flatliners. This is of course, the original Flatliners, not that crappy new one they did, but this is the true Flatliners. Really creepy idea where you have a bunch of these medical students who decide to experience what death is like when they stop their heart and then they come back and then weird things are happening to them. Fantastic cast as well. Directed by Joel Schumacher, one of the more underrated Joel Schumacher flicks. You have Kiefer Sutherland, Julia Roberts, Kevin Bacon, William Baldwin, Oliver Platt. Director of photography was actually Jan de Bont. Before he directed Speed and Twister, was a director of photography on Flatliners. But I think this Flatliners is a really great movie. Really creepy idea, really an intriguing idea, but love Flatliners. Number 71, Breakdown. Easily one of my personal favorite Kurt Russell films, where Kurt Russell's wife gets kidnapped by these bad guys because he breaks down. He breaks down. Him and his wife were heading to California Their car ends up their car engine dies, and his wife asks a ride from a trucker, and he waits for her to try to get some help, and they basically kidnap her, and he has to go after the bad guys. Easily one of Kurt Russell's best movies. Love Breakdown. Number 70. My favorite Steven Seagal film, Out for Justice. Easily my favorite Seagal film. William Forsythe is your villain. Directed by John Flynn, who also directed The Lockup with Stallone. Did this film. Tagline: he's a cop, it's a dirty job, but somebody's got to take out the garbage. Easily Seagal, out of his earlier films, this is my favorite Seagal film. Easily. Love Out for Justice. I think I'm going to cut for part 3 here, and I'm going to go to part 4. But, number 69, I also do have it. It was kind of a pain to get out, but I'll mention it. Number 69 is Blue Thunder with Roy Scheider and Daniel Stern, where basically Roy Scheider is testing out this helicopter called Blue Thunder, which has all this technology on it where you can look through walls and things like that. And one thing leads to another. Roy Scheider and Daniel Stern heard something they weren't supposed to, and then they get chased by the bad guys. Your villain is Malcolm McDowell. Directed by John Badham, who I talked about a few times before in some of these movies on this list, whether it be like The Hard Way or things like that. And War Games. Another really solid flick by John Badham. Love Blue Thunder. Number 68. Replicant. I think easily one of Jean-Claude Van Damme's most underrated movies, where Van Damme is a serial killer. Michael Rooker's a cop who's trying to track down Van Damme, and they have to make a clone of Van Damme to try to find the real killer. It's an interesting idea dealing with a serial killer where you have to make a clone of the killer, and you gotta teach it how to do stuff and things like that. Directed by Ringo Lam, who I know not too long ago passed away, which is too bad, but easily one of Van Damme's most underrated movies. And Van Damme does a great job as a serial killer. It's just very creepy, especially in the beginning when he's singing this creepy lullaby and to this baby and setting the house on fire, and just really creepy stuff. It's such a bizarre movie, but he does a great job. So easily one of Van Damme's most underrated movies. Okay, so I'm going to cut for part 3 here, and I'll see you guys in part 4.